I never imagined that a single conversation could dismantle years of love, trust, and shared life in just a few sentences. But that night it did. My name is David, and for 7 years I had built what I thought was a stable, respectful, and genuine life with Emily. Ours wasn't defined by grand gestures, but by the quiet, meaningful moments, the routines, the small jokes only we understood, the dreams whispered late at night. I believed we were true partners, equals in every sense. I didn't realize everything we'd built rested on a fragile thread, one I didn't even see until it snapped, with the wrong words spoken in the wrong way, inside the very place I thought was our refuge. It began like any other evening. Emily had invited a few friends over for dinner, casual, simple, comfortable. I was in the kitchen preparing appetizers, wanting everything to be perfect. We had planned for an easy night, a good meal, a bottle of wine, laughter filling our home. Then, out of nowhere, she said it. I can invite my ex if I want. It's my house too. I froze. The knife in my hand trembled slightly, not from fear, but from disbelief. For a moment, I wondered if I'd misheard. Did she really say that? Did she just suggest inviting someone from her past into our home, our space, as if my feelings didn't exist? Suddenly, the dinner felt like a performance. The walls seemed to close in, and I realized I was suffocating in the one place that was supposed to feel safe. I wanted to respond calmly, rationally, but my throat tightened. Emily, that's not okay, I managed to say. I thought we respected each other's boundaries. She rolled her eyes, her tone clipped and dismissive. David, it's just dinner. You're making a big deal out of nothing. Nothing. The word echoed. I remembered all the times I had compromised. The late nights at work, the sacrifices I made to keep our life smooth. And now, in a single breath, my voice, my discomfort, my presence meant nothing. It wasn't only her words, it was the tone, the disregard, the way she dismissed me like an inconvenience. The way she said it's my house too, as though that gave her the right to erase the respect we once shared. In that instant, I felt a wall rise between us. Not a wall built from disagreement, but from a deeper fracture. Disrespect. Two versions of my life clashed in my mind, the one I believed we had, and the one that actually existed. I knew then that the line had been crossed. This wasn't about preferences. It was about control, about boundaries that no longer meant anything to her. My heart was heavy, but my mind was crystal clear. I had tried patience, understanding, compromise, but compromise only works when both people honor the limits that hold a relationship together. The difference between love and disregard had never been starker. That night, I didn't yell. I didn't plead. I didn't bargain. I simply decided. The next morning, I filed for divorce. When daylight poured through the windows, the house felt colder than ever. It was strange, how a place once alive with laughter and warmth could feel so hollow overnight. Emily moved around as if nothing had happened, humming softly while she brewed her coffee, scrolling on her phone, pretending the previous night's words were trivial. But they weren't. Every sound she made, every casual glance reminded me of the disrespect in her tone, of how easily she had dismissed everything we'd built. I sat at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a cup of coffee I didn't even want, my mind circling back to that one phrase, "It's my house too." It wasn't just about the dinner, or her ex. It was about what she'd said between the lines, that my feelings, my comfort, even my place in our home no longer mattered. Suddenly, years of shared memories, the jokes, the quiet talks, the tenderness, all felt fragile, like glass underfoot. That's when I realized the truth. Boundaries aren't trivial. They're proof of respect. They're how love stays alive. And she had crushed mine without a second thought. So I made a choice. I would no longer share my space, or my peace, with someone who treated my boundaries as optional. If love requires compromise, respect requires balance. And there was no balance left. No acknowledgement, no empathy, no pause. I had spent years making sure she felt heard, valued, and safe, yet she treated my presence as an afterthought, my voice as irrelevant. That realization hit harder than any argument or betrayal could. It wasn't loud or dramatic, just cold and absolute. By midday, the decision was set in motion. The divorce papers were ready. My lawyer had everything prepared. I blocked her on every platform, not out of spite, but for peace, for closure, for clarity. I was reclaiming the respect and dignity I had slowly let erode. That evening, when she came home, she acted as if nothing had happened, chatting lightly, expecting normalcy. But I was already gone. The house was silent, stripped of my presence. She opened the door expecting the familiar warmth, but instead, she was met with emptiness, a silence louder than any confrontation. It wasn't anger that lingered in that space. It was clarity, a final message written not in words, but in absence. Respect cannot be begged for or negotiated. It must be freely given. Her confusion was instant. She stood frozen in the doorway, hand still on the knob, scanning the empty room as if the walls might
explain. The silence pressed down on her, not as punishment but as consequence. There was no shouting, no dramatic goodbye, just the undeniable truth, the absence of the man she thought would always stay. Even the air seemed heavier, filled with everything she had ignored for too long. I watched from a distance, unseen, as the realization dawned on her. The comfort, the laughter, the familiarity, all of it gone. What remained was the mirror of her own disregard. For the first time, she saw what I had felt for months, that love cannot survive without respect. And in that moment she finally understood. There was no bitterness in my leaving, only peace, a boundary drawn that could not be blurred again. In the days that followed, the messages poured in from friends, from family, from people trying to make sense of what happened. But my decision wasn't about revenge or anger. It was about reclaiming dignity, about choosing self-respect over endless compromise. Each text, each call only reminded me of one truth. Relationships endure only when both people honor the same foundation, mutual respect and recognition. Without that, everything else collapses. The whispers, the speculation, the opinions, none of it mattered. I had already made my choice. Clarity over chaos, respect over compliance, self-worth over surrender. Weeks passed. The echoes of our life together faded. The house that once held our laughter returned to stillness. I rebuilt my routines, reclaimed my peace, and started again. This time with purpose, with intention. The contrast stayed with me. The warmth of what I thought was love, and the chill that followed once respect disappeared. Eventually, Emily reached out, tentative and remorseful, but my boundaries held firm. Words, no matter how sincere, couldn't undo the choices that had already been made. Looking back now, I understand that a relationship's strength isn't measured by time or shared memories, but by mutual respect, clear boundaries, and the recognition of each other's worth. Once those are broken, no history can hold what's already fallen apart. That night, those careless words, that dismissive tone, that declaration of my house too, revealed more than she intended. It marked the end, and in that ending I found clarity. I found closure. I found the courage to walk forward entirely and finally on my own terms,